Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This video is for those who hate the Confederate battle flag, and for those who love it, you'll like this because this is basically in homage to our Confederate heritage as Southerners. The fact that in the South we fought for what we believed in this part of the United States. And you know something, one funny thing is that no Yankee, no Northerner can ever claim a pride as the Southerners had for what we were fighting for. As a matter of fact, we are the only part of the United States that had the kind of heritage that gave the types of songs which now the blacks absolutely abhor. Negro spirituals, Southern songs. One which I'm going to be actually trying to sing in this video today is called Dixieland. And I guarantee you the Yanks are going to be saying, oh, no, 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 we don't want to hear that song. But it's a part of what the Civil War was about. And that is that people in the South had pride in their country, and more importantly about their way of life here. And the Yanks in the North, all they wanted was superiority. And you think in the 60s there was white supremacy. Well, it existed long before even the Civil War, during that time in the 1800s in New York, in the northern states, because they may have had some slaves, but most blacks in the North were actually slave owners themselves. And that fact has been coming forward in the past years. But the understanding now is that these kinds of facts are suppressed by historians, by those who are advocates for the destruction of the Southern history and the Southern heritage that existed and still does 150 years later, even though people are trying to obliterate it. In 1973, Elvis Presley did a live performance of Dixieland during his concert in Hawaii, in Honolulu. And I'm not going to try and use it because I know that YouTube is going to say, copyright, you can't use that, you know. So I want to just try to read the words of the lyrics. I found them on the internet. And it's funny, I don't see any mention of one of the lyrics that Elvis used in his song. One part of his song was this. Little baby, don't you cry. You know your daddy's bound to die. And then he sings a little more, and then he says, and so he bled and died. And that part was when the flute kicked in, and then they would play it. And in the lyrics, I'm looking at this thing, I don't see any mention anywhere about glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. And now that part is probably what Elvis added to his song that he did when he did his live performance. But there's no mention of glory, hallelujah anywhere in Dixieland. This is the way that the phrases go. This is the different lyrics. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Then he would say, glory, glory, hallelujah, and then he would sing the rest of it. Now here's the next passage, or the next lyric. In Dixieland, where I was born in, early on one frosty morning, look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And again, the Northerners have nothing that even compares to this, because you know why? They didn't have any kind of real personality or heritage of their culture, because all they cared about was just perfection, doing things the way that Abraham Lincoln or whoever was president, that's the way they wanted it. In the South, we still had our own culture, because we had our own way of living down here. It was very, very laid back. It was not a perfectionist attitude that everybody had to live a certain way. And this kind of a song, the blacks hate it today. They absolutely just, it just it just digs in their crawl, because they don't like hearing things that represent heritage or pride in a particular area of the country. And please, if you're an Englishman, please, I know y'all have your own pride of your own country, but this is not anything compared to anything that ever happened in the British Isles. It only has significance to America, because in America we're the only culture that ever had a civil war based on differences of opinion of cultural lifestyles, not about whether somebody was better than somebody else. Civil War had nothing to do with the fight to end slavery. Abraham Lincoln did that of his own accord. It had nothing to do with the Civil War itself. Civil War was between two different factions: the North, who thought they were better than the South, and the South, who believed in their way of life was still good and worth preserving and protecting and fighting for. And that's why the Civil War started in 1861. Now the next lyric is, "In Dixieland I'll take my stand, to live and die in Dixie. Look away, look away." And then of course it continues, but really this particular section of the lyrics is slightly different, so I'm not quite sure of how it sounds. The next one says, "There's buckwheat cakes and Injun batter, makes you fat or a little fatter. Look away, look away." And then it says, "Then hoe it down and scratch your gravel. To Dixie's land I'll bound to travel. Look away." Now these again sound similar to what the first lyrics sounded like. Then "I wish I was in Dixie." And I think pretty much that was it. But they're saying that the writer of this song, he used only the first stanza to emphasize this particular performance he was doing, and that it was picked up by a lot of Southerners, because Louisiana was a part of the South to a certain degree. And that's what a lot of the Confederate soldiers began singing during the time when Civil War started in 1861. And though blacks hate to admit that Southern pride is also in their blood, because their ancestors as slaves adopted several different types of gospel songs that they heard, probably even from their own white masters. And these songs are still there to this day. Wade in the Water, several of the songs. I personally, I don't know them all, but if I heard a few lines, I'd probably say, yes, that's definitely one. But this is a part of history, and it is not something that any one culture or race should tell society. We don't want to remember that as a part of our past, but yet you still harp on it all the time. Whenever something like this Confederate flag behind me comes up and you say that represents hate, it represents slavery, what you're really saying to our society when you say these things is, that flag offends me as a black, not that it represents hatred towards everybody in the United States, because it doesn't represent hate. You have pacifists who are now beginning this campaign of, let's retaliate against everything and anything that represented slavery or represented Southern pride in the United States. And I've said this in another video, I'm going to say it again. A lot of people who are in Georgia are from the Yankee country, and that's in the north. And I can remember one night I was watching right after Robert E. Lee's birthday. Now they're trying to say we don't need that as a holiday, but yet they turn around and they adorize Obama to the point that they want, I mean, they've already done that for Martin Luther King. They've made him a federal holiday, you know? And it's like, if y'all can have your own black leader adorized and projected that high up, then why should the Southerners have to be phased out of the picture and said, you don't deserve anything. Your people don't deserve nothing. Just because of the fact that it happened in history, that the slaves were here, they were in several southern and in northern states. And now they're saying we want to obliterate that from history, and that includes anything that represents the Confederacy, the Southern people, or anything else. One of the things that disturbs me is that they want to obliterate and destroy the Confederate memorial at Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain took 50 years to make, and that started around 1925. And it sat there for 40 years until the late 1960s, and then they decided to start trying again to recreate it again. Now, you know what? If y'all want to destroy it, I guarantee you what they're going to say after they've done that is this: let's replace what was there and put Obama's face up there with Martin Luther King. And we'll change Stone Mountain from being a Southern Confederate memorial to the new supremacist black New World Order philosophy, which is everything is now for us, it's not for anybody else. Destroy everything that represents Southern pride, Southern history in this country. And the more that they do in this country against things that exist and had existed, and say we want to destroy that and create our own history, we want to create, that is exactly the philosophy that the Pope in the Vatican stands by to this day. He's taken the Bible, that is the most sacred document in the world, and he has shredded the whole thing and said, I'm going to just totally remake the Bible. I'm going to go by what the public wants. When they say we don't want intolerance against fags or gays or homosexuals, and that's what he's been advocating ever since. And what he says in no way reflects what the Bible has always taught about how God sees homosexuality, how God has seen these things. And you know what? It is not behind times, because you cannot take a document that's 2,000 years old and shred it and say, well, we're going to rewrite the history of what's in the Bible, because that's what God said, and you cannot change what he said, because that was how he intended us to live. And for 2,000 years people have lived that way, and I don't see a problem with saying that we should change anything just because now somebody says, well, I don't want to live that way anymore. Too bad. It's been around longer than you've been alive, and you have to either accept it or go to a country where, like in Russia, they can dictate to you and tell you what you can do. Now, it's becoming like that in this country right now. Every single day, Obama comes on television and he says to people, we don't need religion anymore. We don't need anything. You just do what I tell you to do. I'm your dictator. I'm the one that makes that decision. And what is this all getting to as far as what is the outcome? What is their intentions long term? New World Order is global control, global subjugation against every person, and that includes that you have no individuality. That means your pride, your heritage, your feelings, everything is snapped. That means you conform. That is going to be a word I am sure we're going to hear in the next 5 years. Everybody must conform because it's for the good of everybody. And that's what socialism has always been. Get out a history book and read about Adolf Hitler and you'll find out. Adolf Hitler's only philosophy was this: kill the Jew, advocate for the Aryan race, which was, they were the blonde, blue-eyed, superior being that Germany was going to create. And look at what happened in only 5 or 6 short years. Adolf Hitler was defeated. His whole dream was shredded to bits. And Obama, of course, is not Adolf Hitler, but he sure is close to him, because he has the same attitudes, he has the same philosophies as Adolf Hitler. And he was a National Socialist. So is Obama. And our country has to take a stand, because sooner or later we're not going to have the right